Was Abraham Lincoln a president?
Yes.
Oh, I thought he was just a whatever public figure.
Welcome back to Delulu Diaries, where the timelines don't match, but the receipts always do. Yesterday I posted a video going through a Reddit forum where we talked about some of the worst things that Amber has done, and I completely neglected to mention Norma in that video. And I think that, honestly, since some time has passed since the original scandal, there has been so much light brought onto how horribly Norma's life was affected by Amberlynn, both directly and indirectly. So I wanted to go ahead and touch on that today, just because I do think that it deserves to be in its own video where we can kind of all reflect now that some time has passed and we've gotten more information on exactly what Norma went through with Amberlynn in her life. First, I want to go ahead and go back to those original voice notes that Amber had sent her in order for us to refresh our memory on what was said.
I am not trying to argue with you. That is the last thing I want to do since you just got out of surgery. I don't want to cause any more stress onto you, onto Becky, onto anyone in your family, onto myself, because that's just not going to fix anything. I am just tired of the added drama onto my YouTube, and I'm tired of not being appreciated when I try to help you the best that I can.
First of all, Amber did not help Norma the best that she could. Beck had admitted to going up to the hospital at least twice to help Norma with the results, the diagnosis, the first time to get the initial diagnosis and the second time to go after the surgery in order to, be there and support Norma. And Amber went for the day of the surgery, but Amber did not go to the second part where they went for the reading, which, if they have a tenacious relationship, I would not argue that Amber should have been there. But I am saying that her not being there does show that they had the kind of relationship where she would either not be wanted or, didn't think to go or something like that. Now, obviously, we know at this point that they never had a good relationship, but to me, that doesn't speak to being somebody who did as much as they could. And then on top of that, we know that now that Beck has come out and talked about how much their time was controlled, that Amber was consistently wanting Beck to stay back behind with them when, even if it wasn't like something directly related to the cancer, Beck could have been going to see their mother and spending time with her in her last year of life. Additionally, on top of that, which we're going to get into a little bit more, Amber did not help Norma financially pretty much at all, from my understanding. It sounds like from Norma's point of view, the only person who ever helped her financially was Beck, but that was a one-time help. It was not like a lump sum of money that was super helpful or anything. She said that Beck had helped them get 2 rooms, which I don't know what that was in reference to. But that was the only time Norma ever talked about getting help during this period of her life from Beck or Amberlynn. And she went out of her way to say that Amberlynn herself had never helped her. I am going to link the videos that I used as a resource down in the description box below in case you guys want to see any more information on that, but I didn't want to get too deep into something that I didn't know what it was referring to. I just wanted to point out that Amberlynn's initial statement that she did all that she could is just a crock of lies. It's not true. On top of that, to me, just from listening to this first very short clip, you can tell Amber's thoughts were not about Norma at all. Amber was upset about the backlash that she was receiving from the GoFundMe and from the comments that Norma had left on her video that were obviously not in support of Amber. It had nothing to do with Norma or supporting her or fixing the family dynamic or anything like that. And so the timing of choosing to call Norma right after surgery to relay all this information is actually crazy, because obviously that is not a time when anybody wants to deal with any kind of stress. Most people don't even want to deal with support right after surgery. They just want to sleep.
And it's just frustrating. This whole situation is super frustrating. And I finally just kind of wanted to speak upon the situation.
So she wanted to speak on a situation that became about her when Norma had just got out of surgery.
a lot of your comments when we were Facebook friends. I have left comments on your Facebook regarding your cancer. I have asked how you're doing. I have been there in that sense. And, you know, we don't have to really go down the line of, oh, you didn't message me, because I can say the same about you.
Amber is basically saying that all she's done is leave Facebook comments and has asked how Norma's doing every once in a while. She doesn't mention anything like, I've called you every single day, I've given you money, I've, DoorDashed food to you or whatever. She doesn't list out any kind of meaningful support, just a couple of comments on Facebook and asking how she's doing every once in a while. So clearly to me, this proves without a shadow of a doubt, not that I think there was any doubt to begin with, that Amber was not doing anything. She kind of caps the list off by being like, I've been there for you in that sense. We don't have to get into who's done what for who, which, like, the only reason that you wouldn't at this point, because it's already an aggressive call, is because you know you didn't do anything, if that makes sense. Like, if I was having a verbal altercation with somebody and saying like, hey, you don't think that I'm doing enough for you, you can bet your butt I'm going to be telling them exactly what support I feel like I've done for them. Which, again, this is not the time for her to be bringing this up to Norma, but if she's going to be rude and bring it up at this time anyways, might as well lay it all out on the table, and I believe she did. I believe that this is everything that she said. Also, kind of crazy for somebody to say, I may not have reached out to you to see how you were doing with your whole cancer journey, but you never reached out to me to see how I was doing just in general. Like, yeah, she has some shit on her mind. She has cancer. Like, I would not expect Norma to be the one to reach out first during a time when Norma is extremely tired, lethargic, is having a hard time just being awake, which we know from some text messages that I'll show later in the video, as well as what's in the video that I'm referencing, that she pretty much caps every conversation with like, I have to go. I can barely keep my eyes open. I just don't feel like dealing with stress right now. I'm very sleepy. I'm tired. So why would this be the time to say, well, you don't reach out to me to see how I'm doing? Yeah, she's got enough on her plate without having to worry about your feelings and emotions.
Where not once have you thanked me personally for the money I was going to give you, for the video I made,
You heard
for the
that. I was
backlash
going to
I'm
give
getting
you.
for sticking up for you. Not once did you say sorry for any of the things that you have brought to my channel that is in a negative light.
I don't want to beat a dead horse over the whole money that I was going to give you, obviously meaning that she didn't give any money. We all in Girl World know this by now. I do want to give a quick reminder that this is not the money from the GoFundMe. The GoFundMe was actually never in Amberlynn's name. It was reported as a scam to GoFundMe, and everybody who donated to the GoFundMe was refunded their money. The money she's referring to is from the video that she filmed with Beck, explaining the situation about the GoFundMe existing, asking for donations, and in the video, Amber had said, please watch as many ads as you can, which at the time was against YouTube's terms of service. And so that is where the issues came, because the video ended up getting demonetized. So there was no money that she could give, I guess, was the deal. I'm not entirely sure how that process works on YouTube's back end, but we find out from Norma's text, and I'm going to try to put it up on the screen right now, that Amber earned $5,000 from that video. I don't know if the $5,000 was paid out or not, but that tells you how much money she was earning from videos at that time in general. She didn't need to make a dedicated video to Norma in order to give her the proceeds from a video. She could have helped out at any time. I mean, $5,000 for one day of work is huge. Now, I'm not saying that might not have been the biggest video on her channel at that time or something like that. Of course, it could have been an outlier, but this is during the time that Amber was publicly touting that she was making $10,000 a month, etc., etc. So she had money to spare, and Norma knew that. And Norma does seem like she wanted to pretty much just be left out of all of this. She said multiple times that she did not want to get involved in YouTube, that she didn't want to be brought up on YouTube. She did admit to leaving messages on Amber's YouTube page, but I think she felt that she had to because Amber was dragging her name through the mud. Also, I don't think it gets brought up enough that Amber says, never once did you thank me personally for the money I was going to give you, which kind of implies that she thanked Amber indirectly, like through Beck, by being like, oh, Beck, thank you and Amber so much for, trying to raise money or help out or something like that. Because why else would you say you never thanked me personally? It like makes it seem like there was somewhere where she did thank her, which wasn't even required because no money exchanged hands.
Furthermore, everybody knows where you all live. You all the ones saying you was being stalked. Everybody and their brother knows where you live. Hannah and Rafe is the one let that out. And they had treated Becky like shit. Screwed her over. And what did you do? You wanted them back. It's all your fault. So don't be sending me messages telling me to please stop commenting. I've done commenting. But you could have at least picked up the phone. You could have called me, and we could have talked about this. You have not once called me and said, Norma, I am so sorry that you have cancer. I am so sorry that you have to go through this. Not once have you ever said that to me. Not once.
Of course, it's obvious that Amber should have reached out to Norma and said that she was sorry about the diagnosis that Norma had gotten. And, if she wanted to be nice, could have checked in to see if there was any support that she could have offered Norma specifically from herself, instead of just kind of checking in here and there and commenting on Facebook. I think that's common courtesy when you find out that a family member has cancer, is to be like, oh my gosh, if there's ever anything that you need from me, I will help you. I'm here for you. I am so sorry that you're going to go through this, but you're a strong person. You're a fighter. That kind of thing is very typical. That is what a normal person would do. And it sounds like Amber did not even do that part. And then also, unrelated to the cancer, we can hear how Norma felt that Amber was not doing enough to support her child. Like, she's saying that at this time, Hannah and Rafe had, exposed Amber's address, which obviously is Beck's address as well. And that rather than, hold the line and be like, hey, this is not cool. You put me and Beck at risk, and kind of ice them out, realizing they're not safe people to be around. Amber wanted to get back together in that friendship, thus making it, possible for them to hurt Beck again, which we know that relationship did not end on a very good term. So yeah, I just feel so badly for Norma, because we can see where time and time again, Amber's relationship with Beck negatively impacted Beck's relationships overall, as well as Beck's relationship with her own mother. I'm going to put a little text thread up here on the screen for you guys to read now if you'd like to, but the basic gist is that Norma is talking to a friend and is saying, hey, please don't share this anywhere, because if Beck sees that I'm talking nasty about Amber, Beck is not going to want to talk to me anymore. And so that tells you right there how much Amber had kind of dominion over Beck. And yes, I do have to point out, for those of you who love to say this, Beck is an adult person. Beck had the ability to make their own decisions. Beck could have chosen to, not listen to Amber and to just do whatever they wanted to. However, I can say personally, I have been in a relationship with somebody who made me feel specific ways about people where it is almost like your critical thinking ability kind of shuts off. Like, I don't know how much Beck was affected in the relationship with Amber. Only Beck knows that. But for me personally, I was in a relationship where when we went to hang out with some mutual friends, there was a couple of people in that group that my partner did not like. And he would talk so frequently and so negatively about those people that it made it to where I shared those beliefs as well. And when we ended up breaking up and I was able to talk to other friends in my friend group about my feelings on the friends that I felt negatively about, I realized that he had slowly shaped my opinion of them over time to the point where I got to where I hated seeing these people. And once we split, I realized that most of what he had put into my brain was not accurate. So while yes, Beck was an adult and could have chosen to see their mother, could have chosen to work on their relationship with their mother, everything else like that, it is possible, even as an adult, to have somebody in your life who is toxic, who does kind of poison the well, so to speak, about your feelings on relationships. That's my personal feeling about it. I understand some people don't agree with that, but I just wanted to explain why, if you feel like I'm giving Beck too much slack, that's where I'm coming from. It's just because I've been through something similar. And so while Beck is an adult, I do think that due to Amber emotionally mistreating Beck, I do think that that needs to be taken into consideration. That pretty much wraps up my feelings on the GoFundMe and the after surgery calls that most people talk about. But now that we have an opportunity to look back, I do want to say that the other things that I feel really terrible for Norma about is that Beck has come out and said that they felt like their time was very controlled, as well as the fact that they had interventions. Norma, during this time where she was not feeling good, both before she got diagnosed with the cancer, because she said that she wasn't feeling right before she got diagnosed, as well as throughout her cancer journey, had to deal with the fact that she didn't want to see Beck with Amber. She felt that Beck was in a terrible relationship and needed to get them apart. So even though she wasn't feeling her best, she did everything she could, including orchestrating interventions in order to get Beck away from Amber. And then we also have, of course, what happened after Norma passed away. Norma had an inheritance that she had ideas for what it could be used for. Beck said that they really hated that they missed out on their inheritance because Norma had things that could have been done to honor her memory, and Beck wanted to use the money in that way. Granted, just like we can't ever tell what Amber is going to do with her money, we can't tell what Beck would have done with that money either, especially given the fact that, you know, I hate to make this negative about Beck in the same video about talking about Beck's mother, but we do know that Beck has done a GoFundMe before saying they were going to use the money for something and then they end up using it for something else. So, you know, we can get into that in another video, but I'm just saying, you know, I do want to point out the fact that even though Beck said that they wanted to use the money from Norma's passing to do something to honor Norma, we can't guarantee what would have been done. But I do like to think that Beck would have used that money in a way that would have honored Norma. Now, whether Beck deserved to keep the inheritance or whether it was, you know, used for bills or whatever, because I know that's the common thing that's going around right now, is a little debate back and forth between if people think that Beck's inheritance was stolen or if Beck's inheritance was absorbed into the family household funds. It does sound like Beck's main account is that they wanted to use this money as soon as it came in, but Amber would not let them do that, which again goes back to the argument of Beck is an adult, Beck can do what they want. Beck didn't have to put the money into a joint account. They could have found a workaround, and I do agree with that to a degree. I don't think that Beck is completely absolved of whatever was going on, and there were likely workarounds, or Beck could have just done what they wanted to do anyways, but I think it's worth mentioning that Norma's concern over her child was correct. Clearly, Beck was not in a good relationship, and it makes me really sad that Beck has to live with the fact that they didn't let their mom see that they got out of the relationship because they didn't leave until after her passing. And whether we think that Beck could have done more to get out of that situation or not, I do think that's just a very sad fact, and I do feel really badly for Norma in this situation. So I know it's very complex because all of these people that we're talking about have pros and cons to them. Nobody's a perfect person, but I just thought it was worth mentioning because I do think that the way that Amber affected Norma's life is downplayed so much by just being in this one little phone call, when it's clear from the fact that Norma felt the need to have an intervention for Beck that Norma was being affected greatly by the relationship between Amber and Beck, especially the text message saying, please don't let Beck know that I'm talking to you about this, because if Beck finds out that I'm talking negatively about Amber, I won't talk to Beck anymore. I feel like that is such a smoking gun, because that shows me that either A, Amber had such a strong emotional hold over Beck that Amber was able to kind of twist the narrative and make Beck angry with their mother instead of being angry about the situation that Amber was putting Norma and Beck in that made Norma speak out against it. Or B, that Amber was utilizing techniques that keep people away from their family, which, as we all know, is a huge sign of mistreatment in a relationship. Step one is often to distance people from their families. So I just thought that was worth talking about. Let me know if you guys think that I missed anything, because frequently I forget little bits and pieces of Girl World trivia. And I do just think that it is worth taking a minute to reflect on how Amber affected Norma's life. So if there's anything that I missed, I would love for you guys to point that out in the comments down below. Let me know what you guys think about this situation, and if I brought up any points that you weren't aware of, so we can all just learn from each other. And if you made it this far, you already know. Stay Delulu, but not that Delulu. I'll catch you in the next one.